The Battle of Midway was one of the most pivotal moments in World War II, a dramatic clash that shifted the balance of power in the Pacific theater. Over 4 days in June 1942, the United States Navy faced off against the Imperial Japanese Navy in a battle defined by intelligence breakthroughs, bold strategies, and devastating losses. In this video, we'll uncover how this epic confrontation unfolded, why it was a turning point in the war, and the lasting significance of this decisive victory. If you're passionate about history like myself and want to explore more monumental events like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. By the summer of 1942, the Pacific theater of World War II had reached a critical juncture. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, Japan had rapidly expanded its empire, seizing territories across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. These victories had given Japan control over critical resources and strategic positions, but they also brought the Imperial Japanese Navy face to face with its most formidable adversary, the United States. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the architect of Japan's naval strategy, recognized that the U.S. Pacific Fleet, though weakened at Pearl Harbor, remained a significant threat. His plan for the Battle of Midway was bold and calculated. By targeting Midway Atoll, a small but strategically vital outpost approximately 1,300 miles northwest of Hawaii, Yamamoto intended to lure the remaining American aircraft carriers into a decisive battle. The destruction of these carriers, Yamamoto believed, would leave the U.S. Navy incapable of mounting offensive operations in the Pacific, allowing Japan to consolidate its defensive perimeter and secure its empire. Midway's location made it a critical objective. Situated roughly halfway between Japan and the continental United States, it served as a forward base for American reconnaissance and potential counteroffensives. Its capture would not only deny the U.S. a strategic foothold in the Pacific, but also pave the way for potential Japanese advances against Hawaii and beyond. To execute the plan, Yamamoto assembled an armada of unparalleled strength, including 4 frontline aircraft carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, supported by battleships, cruisers, and destroyers. The operation relied on deception, with a diversionary attack planned in the Aleutian Islands to draw American attention away from Midway. Yamamoto anticipated that this multi-pronged strategy would catch the U.S. forces off guard, ensuring a swift and decisive victory. What Yamamoto did not account for was the role of intelligence. Unknown to the Japanese, American cryptographers had broken portions of their naval code, known as JN-25. By early May 1942, U.S. intelligence had intercepted and deciphered messages indicating that a major Japanese operation was imminent and that Midway was the target. Armed with this information, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, devised a counter-strategy. Instead of being lured into a trap, the U.S. would set one of its own, ambushing the Japanese fleet at Midway and turning the tide of the Pacific War. The success of the United States at the Battle of Midway was built on a foundation of exceptional intelligence work and meticulous preparation. By early 1942, American cryptographers stationed at Pearl Harbor had made a critical breakthrough in deciphering portions of the Japanese naval code, known as JN-25. This achievement, spearheaded by Commander Joseph Rockefort and his team at Station HYPO, allowed the U.S. Navy to intercept and interpret Japanese communications, providing invaluable insight into their strategic plans. In May 1942, American intelligence intercepted messages indicating that the Japanese were planning an operation against a target referred to as AF. To confirm this target as Midway, the cryptographers devised a clever ruse. They instructed Midway's garrison to send an unencrypted radio message falsely reporting a shortage of fresh water. Shortly after, Japanese communications revealed that AF was experiencing water shortages, verifying Midway as the intended target of Japan's next major offensive. Armed with this information, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, formulated a bold plan to counter the Japanese attack. Nimitz deployed 3 aircraft carriers, USS Enterprise, USS Hornet, and the hastily repaired USS Yorktown, along with their escorting task forces to establish an ambush northwest of Midway. Despite sustaining heavy damage at the Battle of the Coral Sea just weeks earlier, the Yorktown was patched up and made operational in a remarkable 72-hour effort at Pearl Harbor. Preparation extended to Midway itself, which was fortified to resist Japanese assaults. The garrison included Marine defense battalions, radar installations, and a small air contingent of long-range bombers and fighter aircraft. The defenders were tasked with holding off Japanese forces long enough for the American carriers to strike a decisive blow against the enemy fleet. Nimitz's strategy relied on the element of surprise. The U.S. carriers were positioned to avoid early detection by Japanese reconnaissance, allowing them to remain hidden until the decisive moment. American forces trained rigorously, fine-tuning their coordination between aircraft and ships to maximize their combat effectiveness. The stage was set for a confrontation that would hinge on timing, coordination, and the ability to outthink an adversary that had thus far dominated the Pacific. With intelligence providing a clear picture of Japanese intentions and meticulous preparation ensuring readiness, the U.S. Navy turned the tables on an enemy that had underestimated their resilience and resourcefulness. The Battle of Midway began in earnest on June 4, 1942, when Japanese forces under Vice Admiral Chuchi Nagumo launched the first wave of airstrikes against Midway Atoll. Over 100 aircraft bombed and strafed the island, targeting its airfields and defensive installations. Although the attack caused significant damage, it failed to neutralize Midway's air power entirely, leaving American planes operational for counterattacks. While the Japanese focused on Midway, U.S. reconnaissance aircraft spotted Nagumo's carrier strike force. Acting swiftly, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz ordered airstrikes from the carriers Enterprise, Hornet, and Yorktown, even as Nagumo's forces were in the process of rearming their planes for a second strike on the atoll. This critical moment of vulnerability was caused by Nagumo's hesitation. He had received reports of U.S. ships in the vicinity but delayed launching a counterstrike until he could confirm their location. The first wave of American attacks, consisting largely of torpedo bombers, suffered devastating losses. The slow-moving planes, unsupported by sufficient fighter cover, were picked off by Japanese Zero fighters and anti-aircraft fire. Yet, their sacrifice was not in vain. Their attacks distracted the Japanese, keeping their fighters out of position and their ships vulnerable. At approximately 10:30 a.m., American dive bombers from the Enterprise and Yorktown arrived above the Japanese fleet at the perfect moment. With the decks of Nagumo's carriers loaded with fuel, munitions, and aircraft being prepared for launch, the dive bombers struck with devastating precision. Within minutes, 3 of Japan's frontline carriers, Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu, were engulfed in flames and rendered inoperable. The destruction was catastrophic, as each carrier carried not only aircraft but also highly trained aircrews, whose loss dealt a severe blow to Japanese naval aviation. The 4th Japanese carrier, Hiryu, launched a desperate counterstrike. Its planes targeted the Yorktown, inflicting critical damage that led to the carrier's eventual sinking. However, American forces quickly located Hiryu and launched their own attack, delivering fatal blows that left the carrier ablaze by the end of the day. By June 5th, the remnants of the Japanese fleet were in retreat. Admiral Yamamoto, recognizing the extent of the defeat, abandoned plans to invade Midway and ordered his remaining ships back to Japan. The U.S. Navy, though battered, emerged victorious, having decisively halted Japan's offensive momentum in the Pacific. The aftermath of the Battle of Midway marked a turning point in the Pacific War, with long-lasting consequences for both the United States and Japan. For the Japanese, the loss was catastrophic. 4 of their frontline aircraft carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, had been destroyed, along with more than 300 aircraft and many of their most experienced pilots and crew. These were irreplaceable losses for the Imperial Japanese Navy, which struggled to recover its operational capabilities in the years that followed. The defeat forced Japan onto the defensive, halting its expansion and dismantling its strategic momentum. For the United States, Midway was a decisive victory, achieved through a combination of intelligence, preparation, and battlefield execution. While the U.S. Navy suffered significant losses, including the sinking of the USS Yorktown, the strategic gains far outweighed the costs. The victory bolstered American morale, demonstrating that the Japanese Navy, once thought invincible, could be decisively defeated. The battle also preserved the balance of naval power in the Pacific, giving the United States the breathing room necessary to transition to offensive operations. Strategically, the Battle of Midway shifted the dynamics of the Pacific War. Japan's ability to project power across the vast ocean was severely diminished, and it was forced to abandon plans for further territorial expansion. The United States, meanwhile, gained the initiative, launching the Guadalcanal campaign just 2 months later. This marked the beginning of the island-hopping strategy that would bring American forces closer to Japan's home islands. The significance of Midway extended beyond its immediate military implications. The battle showcased the importance of naval aviation and intelligence in modern warfare, solidifying the aircraft carrier's role as the dominant weapon of the sea. It also emphasized the critical impact of experienced personnel, as Japan's loss of trained pilots would handicap its air operations for the remainder of the war. Midway's legacy endures as a defining moment of World War II. It is remembered not only for its strategic importance, but also for the resilience and ingenuity displayed by the American forces. For Japan, the battle marked the beginning of a long and arduous retreat, culminating in its eventual surrender in 1945. The events of Midway underscored the power of foresight, adaptability, and the ability to leverage intelligence, lessons that continue to shape military strategy today. We'd love to hear your thoughts on possible future topics. What areas of human evolution would you like to explore next? Leave your suggestions in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going. As always, our references and further reading are listed in the description below if you'd like to dive deeper into the subject. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. And do not forget, subscribe to the knowledge.